Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Plugins for Dummies by a Dummy. In this episode, we are going to look at integers and how to calculate a plus b equals c. Stay tuned. To explain what we're going to do today, we're going to open up our Power App, and I'm going to look at here the integer a, integer b, and result integer calculation. What we're going to do is we're going to have a plus b equals the result. So integers, if you're not familiar with them, they are 1, 2, 3, etc. They are not 1.3, they are not 1.2, they are whole numbers only. Like that. So if I were to have 1 plus 2, it should equal 3. So the code we're going to look at now is how to define these two fields as parameters, add them together, and punch it out here. A quick tip though is to use the level up tool. Have a look at the logical names just to see here we have a prefix of the field called the plugin. It's integer a and integer b, and also the resulting column. So these three fields here are going to be in use. So if we go over to the Visual Studio, we're going to open up the same project that we had earlier. So as you can see here now, this project is still just with the tracing service, and that's fine. We're going to clear out the whole text here and going to get that text from my GitHub page again. And you can ask yourself, why am I not making a new project? Well, it's because we're just doing things really simple right now. You know, getting to understand code and not having to install a new project and do everything that we did with adding the assemblies, etc. Okay? So just take out this text like that. Go over to my GitHub page, back into the sample plugin, courses, and here we're going to do integer calculations. Again, we just copy and paste. So this time I'm going to be using a bit more time to talk about a few plugin specific things, okay? First off, again, what we're going to talk about at the same time as before is that this is just the way it is. But do note here that I did not take this part right here. So the first part here is still just kind of like what I would call a startup. It's the same everywhere. And then I'm going to have something here. It's a different thing called functions. So if you've ever done JavaScript, functions are very obvious because it's basically you call logic. In this case, I want to call something called calculate some integer. And that's a function right below here. I'll get into the details about that soon, but having a place to call functions, I feel kind of reassuring. That's the way I like to look at logic. Therefore, I think plugins make sense, the same way JavaScript makes sense. Because at some point you want to call some logic, and this is where I want to call some integer. So I'm going to get to this field soon, okay? But before we do that, let's just have a look at the function. So the first things we do here is we get the field A and we get the field B. This is very similar to JavaScript, except a few things. In JavaScript, you can get away by doing a var, sorry, I'm cap lock here. Oops, field 1 equals, stuff like that. You don't really have to do the whole integer declarations around things. And I'm not going to get into a detailed reason of why it's like that, but this is more real code than one could say almost JavaScript is. JavaScript is real code too, but this is very sensitive code, to put it that way. And again, if you didn't know how to do this, neither did I. ChatGPT did though. So I basically said I have a field A and I have a field B, and I want to add those together. So it says, okay, this is the syntax. Just add your custom fields. Again here, this is the field. Field 1, integer A. Field 2, integer B. So they are now stored in field A, field B. So far, I'm pretty sure everyone should be following this logic. And then, of course, we have the absolute simplest way of doing, we're going to just declare an integer, say that we're going to make a variable now. It's called sum integer. Some people might not understand this, but I hope you do, because it's kind of a basis to understand basic programming, that you can create a variable that is just there when you need it. And in this case, it's sum integer. So it's going to be the sum of A plus B. So, and again, if you want to be creative, you can take out the plus and you can do a minus, or you could do a star, or you can do a slash, you know, it's basically just math. All right, so the next thing here, this is where it gets a bit tricky. And I've never done this before. So again, ChatGPT to the rescue. Because when you update something in CRM, I wanted to make sure that I was only updating the specific record, of course, but not only the specific record, that's kind of given, but just that one field, right? So I'm just going to update one field, because if I update every field, I'm going to be stuck in a loop where one field updates every field, and that is a new update for a new update for a new update for a new update. It's kind of the update inception. We don't want that. So by writing this code the way that we've done here, we're making sure that we're only updating one single field. So this is 3 lines of code right here, but what it really is just the same line of, it's kind of the same logic you would do at the update step of a Power Automate, where you basically define which entity am I updating and what attribute am I updating. It's the same stuff. So if we look here, first I'm just creating it. Again, you remember I did something here with a declaration of an int. It's the same thing. We're kind of making an entity, if that makes sense. If not, just sort of tell yourself that's just the way it is. When you want to update something in Dynamics, you got to start off with an entity. I'm just going to call it the update entity. That's the name it gets here. And here we're going to get into something here. So the record after update and logical name, and record after update ID. Okay, so now we got to go up to the top here. And because what this is saying that so logical name for account is account, but logical name for main table is not main table. Logical name for main table is plugin underscore main table. In order to know that, we also get we get some information on the way in for the plugin, and I'm going to get into this. This is actually a bit complex, and the first time you will get confused. That is fine. I'll try to talk you through it. This is the ID, so this meaning that the GUID of the main table that we're updating. So, but this is the same as a Power Automate or flow. You're basically saying I'm updating the main table with this ID. It's the same stuff. Only difference here is that we've actually defined it in code than actually saying, drop down from a list. And the next step here is the updated entity. We are saying I'm only going to update the result field. That's one single field and not all the other fields. So it's a single field here, and it's going to be the sum integer field. And the sum, as we remember, is A plus B. So A plus B equals the sum integer. So again, nothing happens yet until the very, very last step. And that is the service.update. And then we do, what do we want to update? We want to update the entity that we've defined. That step there, at the last step, is when we actually trigger stuff to the database. But before that, we have done nothing. Before that, we've just been done calculations. But that point, we actually trigger to the database. Okay, this one here is going to be tricky. I get that. I used a long time trying to understand these post entity images. I will post a video later on talking about what the differences are, but within post and pre-images, stuff like that. But for right now, just believe me when I say, to make it easy, all we need to know is that what I am receiving here is everything in Dataverse, the whole record in Dataverse after we click save. And the save has been committed to the database, meaning that it's there. That's when our plugin triggers. So when we click save, it goes down to Dataverse, storing the data. Then it comes back saying, now we have number 1 and we have number 2. And now you execute your logic, and we're again going to trigger one more time for it to save for number 3. If you don't understand this yet, I suggest you let's just compile this plugin and see it in action, okay? So what I'm going to do now, the same way we did last time, this is the plugin. We right click and we do build solution. That again is going to build our plugin. So let's head on over to the main table, where I will be just doing a complete refresh. Let's just remove these values here. Okay, so I haven't uploaded the plugin yet. Again, I'm just trying to explain integer A, integer B, okay? When I click the save button, things get pushed down to CRM, the Dataverse. From there, when it has been stored in Dataverse, it comes back to the application, and before you see anything, it will then say, now, okay, you have a post image, meaning I can take that image, that's kind of an image is basically just like a snapshot of what it looks like. And it contains the values of A, it contains the values of B, and says, okay, let's execute your logic, meaning that we have a result in C. But now we need to register our plugin. And our plugin is going to be a bit harder than last time, because the last time was the simple stuff. Now it's just a tad bit more advanced. So I'm going to remove this simple plugin right here. Just right click simple plugin and unregister. Yes. You don't have to do that. You could have updated the existing one, but I'm just going to do it just for the sake of let's just start fresh. I will again go to the register new assembly. We will find our simple plugin.dll. Again, if you look at my former video, if you need to figure out the path and register plugin. Okay. So to the simple plugin, we now have a plugin. So now we're going to do a new step. Again, we're just going to use the update command. We could use create and stuff like that. We're just going to do it simple for now, doing an update. And the primary entity is plugin main table. That's what we're using the whole, throughout our course here, the main table. So I'm going to click out of that main table. Then I can activate here what are our attributes that we're filtering on. So in this case, we're going to look for the integer A and integer B, meaning if either of these have a change, that's when we fire. Okay. Again here, now you can see this post operation thing. I didn't talk about the last time, but this time I kind of mentioned it. We can do pre-operation, post-operation. I'm not going to be doing pre-validation in any of my courses. That's more for advanced plugins. Mostly we're just going to stick to the post-operation, meaning after we save something to Dataverse, let's run our logic. This is the same stuff when you have classical workflows. It's working on the post-operation. Same stuff with Power Automate. Post-operation. Mostly, at least. So anyway, just click the register new step. And now we're going to do one more thing than we did last time. Very important. One more thing. We're going to do the image. So now we're going to do a post image. Make sure you choose post image. And for the name here, it has to be identical with what is in Visual Studio. And it is post image main. So I'm just going to copy this. It has to be identical. So post image main, like that. And I can also choose here to select what variables we want to send in that image. Oops, I passed those. Integer A and integer B. So these are the ones that I want to send to in this image, meaning that they're available. And I could choose every single field, but there's no real need to sort of include fields that we're never going to use. So just one way to making more optimal stuff. And register image. So I understand this has become more of a, it might look complex. It is complex to begin with, because wrapping your mind around the sort of post image, pre-image, what is a step, what is not a step. I mean, you got to do a few plugins before it makes sense, but eventually it makes a lot of sense. But that's why, again, the course here is just to sort of get down to the basics and make sure that you can get it working. And once you get it working, then you can try to manipulate and see what data you get different places. So now we have this and everything is live and running. So let's go back to our main table. I don't need to do a refresh, but I just have a bad habit of doing a refresh. This is server-side code, so it should work. But anyway, I just did a refresh. So now if we do 1 plus 2, in theory now, if I click save here, we should get a 3. There we go. We got a 3. I mean, it's not very advanced, but I mean, the first time you do server-side code like that, it's pretty cool. The point is that, and we could probably do other tools here to do the simple calculations, but when we are in Visual Studio, remember, I can change this to whatever I want, this plus that times this plus that, etc. I can do advanced calculations. I can do math here. And the sum of the math can be entered into the sum integer. And that will then update the results. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is a plugin of integers. For the next course, we were going to look into currencies, which actually do have quite a bit of a difference of behavior. And I'll try to explain why. And again, I'll explain to my understanding. And if you wonder about more stuff, I would recommend actually just, copy pasting this code into ChatGPT and start asking questions, because it's great at that. It will talk you through the code. It's like, what happens? Why is this like that? Or what happened if I changed this to that type of difference or something like that? It will just answer. Learning code with ChatGPT when you start understanding the basics is really, really cool. Anyway, thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next video where we will talk about currencies. Bye.